Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat datang di Pink Podcast, podcast intelektualitas, inspirasi dan petualangan seputar dunia teknologi dan digital. Dan kembali bersama saya Mia Brihastami sebagai host Pink Podcast dan kita sekarang masih berada di Markas Surabaya. Kita kembali ya ke Markas Surabaya dan episode kali ini sudah hadir tamu yang mungkin paling jauh ya kalau selama ini kita syuting Pink Podcast ya. Beliau ini adalah orang yang sudah keliling dunia menggunakan sepeda motor listrik dengan nama proyeknya e.round the world. Nah, langsung saja kita kenalan dengan Mr. Roman Nedielka. Did I say your name alright?
Yeah, I mean, for the first time it was quite good.
Okay, thank you. Welcome to Markas Surabaya. This is your second time, right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you for coming to our Pink Podcast. So how are you?
No, I'm great, happy to be here. You know, this is a great space, and also I'm, keen to tell more about, what I'm trying to achieve and why and what's the purpose. So happy to be here. Thank you.
We are exciting to hear from your experience around the world. Yeah. So can you tell me more about your project around the world?
Yeah. Okay. So simply, it's basically a ride on electric motorcycle around the whole world. Yeah. This has never been done before. I do it on a normal standard motorcycle. And also I have done it completely solo, without any support, without any vehicle with me. It's just me and a motorcycle.
You were saying this is the first time
Yes.
Anybody done it in this world.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean, like the world or the e-motorcycle? Like
On electric motorcycle. There was one project where they did it a couple of years ago, but it was a prototype and they had a whole team with them. They were swapping batteries and everything on the way, and they completed the journey circumnavigating the world. I did it without any support, basically to show that the electric motorcycles are already so good that only one guy can just ride it around the whole world, without any problems. And I'm now in Indonesia, where I started from, so I'm already done. I did 40,000 kilometers around Asia, Europe, America, Australia. So I'm back here.
Yeah. So how long was it taking you?
So it took me longer than I planned, not because of the riding, but because of all the procedures of moving bike between countries. The custom procedures. Hey, that is the most difficult. It's not about charging, it's about custom procedures. So it took me 8 months. Let's say half of it was riding, half of it was always waiting for some papers, documents somewhere. Flying the bike, obviously, I had to cross Atlantic, Pacific. So I had to cross some bodies of water, which the planet is mostly covered by, and that took also part of the journey.
So it's actually the custom that, being the challenge.
Yes.
Okay. So what else? Like personally, why would you choose like what is your main goal for doing this? You were saying this independently out of your own pocket.
Yep.
Yeah,
Exactly.
so
So I want to be completely authentic. So look, if you have an electric motorcycle and you want to ride it, you need to do 3 things. Yeah, you turn the key, the ignition, then you turn the switch, the power switch, and you turn the throttle, and then you go. Right.
Yeah.
So that's how it is also with the whole adoption. So if you look at the throttle, let's say it's like a government. Government is already trying to accelerate adoption of electric vehicles. In Indonesia, you see setting some targets. You really see some push from the government, right? So there is already this throttle is there. If you look at that switch, that is also already there. So this is businesses. Businesses are already making products, producing some electric motorcycles, are available on the market for, relatively affordable, etc. But it's still not moving because no one has turned the key. The key is still off, and that is the market, that is the consumers, that is the people.
Yeah, the driver.
Exactly. They are still not buying it. They are still not convinced and confident and still hesitant for a number of reasons. First, they still have some outdated perceptions. For example, about charging. They think you need the charging stations, infrastructure. No, for motorcycle, you can charge from any power outlet in your home, anywhere. So there is no need for extra charging infrastructure. So what I'm doing is exactly to turn that key, to start at ignition, to show practical example how mature and already good these motorcycles are. Yeah? If one guy by himself can ride his bike electric around the whole world, then people should not be worried using them in city for their use cases of commute or groceries and for what they are using them, because they're already good enough even for this. So I'm not saying that now everybody should start touring around the world. Probably not. But the technology is already so good, the capacity is so good, there are no entry barriers in terms of, so it's just a better way. And this is what I do in my example. So then I can talk, I went through the mud, I went through the rainy season, I went through the snow in America. I did not have any problem because the whole sort of construction of electric motorcycle is much simpler, which means that there is less risks for failure, so the reliability is much higher, the maintenance is almost non-existent, you don't need to do anything. The only thing which I had to maintain on my bike were the traditional thing. I had to change tires after 25,000 and change my brake pads, the brakes, and that's about it. So really, my purpose is to show that the electric motorcycles, which is the most used form of transportation globally, people think always about cars when they talk about electric vehicles. Well, you know that globally, 1.5 billion people are using motorcycles every day. That is the most used form how we move around globally. It's just not evenly distributed. And the Western world is more car-centric, so that's where the whole electrification of mobility comes from. What I'm doing, being in Indonesia, where you have 9 times more motorcycles than cars, that's the main sort of potential for electrification of transport. Again, without any entry barriers, no need to build any charging stations, at least at this scale. So that is where is the potential. And also I see how positive impact this electrification of motorcycles has on livability in cities, because they are more quiet, they are more agile. I saw this in China. So China, they have already banned combustion motorcycles in cities, or are electric. It's amazing. It's so quiet. You can walk on a street and talk to someone, and it's quiet. Try to do that in middle of Jakarta next to Rasuan Side or Sudirman. So that's why I have seen it already happened. If this can be achieved also in Indonesia, just making cities more quiet, obviously more clean, that is sort of the purpose I have, right? This is my country where I've been living, and I intend to continue living, so I care about Indonesia. So my purpose is to create a very practical example showing the capabilities of electric motorcycles for people to be more confident and at least willing to try and explore and ask questions.
Well, and you've done it.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Sometimes I have these reflections where you have some dream and you plan it, obviously, and you think about it, and then you are sitting in a studio doing a podcast about how you have done it. It's absolutely
I would imagine that amazing. You mentioned about the impact in China. I would imagine that would reduce the stress level there. Exactly. As you know, I'm a psychiatrist, right? So I would imagine it will reduce significantly the stress level.
You know, that's great, because there is a cost of noise, which is not very often talked about.
Yes, not at
There
all.
was a study, I think it was in Switzerland, where they had a grammar school, and they randomized kids into classes to left and right side of the building. And on one side you had a road, like a busy road, and on the other one they just had some nature and things like that. And it was completely randomized. After 8 years, in Europe you have an 8-year grammar education, they measure the performance of those kids on the side of the road and of the side of the
nature.
The difference was 1 academic year of performance. So the kids who were on the noisy side of the road, they lost 1 year of the education just because of the noise, constant interruptions, limited
their concentration,
exactly all of that.
And
So that is, maybe people think they get used to it, No, you don't. It is still there, and obviously brain has their ways how to deal with it, right? And adopt, but it's still impacting. So that noise is one of the factors. People mostly talk about, it's green and challenging what's the really footprint, carbon footprint end to end, which is still less than combustion, but people like to argue about it. You cannot argue about the fact that if something is just more quiet, has less vibration. I have and it's just nicer experience as well, right? Because then you are more immersed in the environment. So what I do, I ride across, diverse landscapes, animals and everything. I'm completely non-intrusive. Which you see how you interact with nature, you see how you interact with people. Every time I stop at a traffic light, because I'm not humming, I'm quiet, so people talk to me. They just roll their window, like, hey, from anywhere, any country.
Oh, they're able to do that.
Exactly, because we have interaction. So now I broke my leg, which maybe I will touch on later. I'm becoming too confident, and I should be more careful still. But I broke my leg. I have it in brace. I can ride my motorcycle. Try to do that on some big bike with vibrations. You cannot.
Oh, you would hurt.
Exactly, you cannot. I can do it because I don't have any vibrations. So there are some very practical advantages from the point of experience for the rider. As I touched on, from the point of perspective of maintenance and reliability, you don't need to do any oil changes. You don't need to mess with the clutch and gears and everything. So it's just simple construction. So it's just superior way of moving around our human bodies, and just people are still not fully aware of it. Again, that's why I do this project.
Imagine the productivity, right? For in the long term, right? But for yourself personally, was it about the nature or was it about the ecosystem? Or what was it that drive you to turn on the ignition?
For this project or in general for using electric motorcycles?
Maybe you can say it in general or specifically for this
Well,
project?
for me it was more of a curiosity. So I'm just always, I'm a tech guy by definition, so I always interested. So by complete luck, I managed to get my motorcycle electric in Jakarta. So it was really, I wanted to try it. And then by using it, I suddenly realized that, wow, this is already really good. It's not some sort of early stage of experimenting. This is a very mature tech, and people have no idea about it. They just talk always about the Teslas. So, so that's why I have decided to take this. And it's really, this project, people sometimes think, then they say, enjoy the ride and stuff. Well, you know what? It is actually hard work because I took time off from my work. I have very strict plan with daily quotas I need to cover, daily distance and everything. So it's 80% a grind, the same as you have at work, right? You just need to sit. So my work is sit sometimes for 10 hours a day, going through the traffic, through the rain, through the mud, trying to find a spot where I can, find some people to let me charge. So it's 80%. Maybe 15% is like it's okay, so you're a little bit riding and it's not raining and you are happy that you are not freezing. And then there is a 5%, which is a pure bliss. And there is those where you are at the places where you just realize like, wow, I'm so happy, lucky guy because I'm riding in the middle of desert. I'm riding in these beautiful locations in Kazakhstan next to running horses in the middle of steppe. So then there are these moments, but they are by far
so the
much
5%
less.
keeps you going.
Yes.
I'm sure that sometimes you find yourself asking, why am I doing this?
And that's why I have this purpose, right? That is what is driving me. I don't necessarily need to be enjoying riding in beautiful places. It's a nice add-on. No, my purpose is what I said at the beginning. I really need to complete this journey to have achievement of the first, completed ride of electric motorcycle around the world. If someone, tells, hey, what are these bikes? I don't even know. Like, they're really quite good. Look, this guy, he could do it. And again, it's not this guy. It's not about me. I don't, even my project and everything, it's personal branding. I use a brand. I don't need Actually, I'm an introvert. I don't need any fame. But it's more about showing like, hey, there was this bike which already went without any support, completely without any problems around the whole world.
Yeah, I think you have impact to so many people that you've touched along the way. But I'm sure that the journey itself has impact to you as well, right?
Well, I don't know. Yeah, that is interesting because, look, things like this will not completely change. It's not like suddenly you become a different person because you already are sort of different person if you do these type of things, right? So there is obviously some delta and change, but it's also not like suddenly now I did this and then, wow. No, so I'm still not fully aware how it has impacted me. I definitely talk much more. I realize that everywhere I go, I can just talk.
Yeah, from being an introvert,
yes.
I think that's significant.
That is definitely. So I work as a consultant in my career. So I'm used to present and talk about presentation. This is a different style. This is just, it's all in me. You know, I've done this myself. It's not like. It's like the personal achievement, you know. Now I sort of understand all those people who are climbing mountains and doing these things where you really do something yourself and you go through the struggle of all the planning, all the administration. You do everything yourself. No team, yeah. If you work, there is always someone. Here, no, you have to be on that bike and go through that. In Tibet, I know that there is a heavy rain. But my quota, I have to be there and you just sit and you put your rain gear, which doesn't help that much, and you just do it. So I think there is something which I like to think that I was always like that. Just, you know, you just get the stuff done. But I think now I'm much more like that. That you really have a very tangible output you achieved end to end just by yourself, which I have to say it feels good, yeah? It feels good.
It sounds like there are lots of preparation to be able to finish this project. So how long does it take you?
Well, I had this idea already around 2020, right? Maybe 2020. No,
since
before.
The pandemic.
Before that.
Before the pandemic.
Like half a year before that or something like that. And I really almost did it. I almost quit my job. And then,
just to do it?
And then the pandemic hit, right? So I didn't have any route. So
they're closing the borders and everything.
Exactly. So I could not do it. But I already before that, basically, I'm a consultant. So I started with my purpose, which I said, which I had from the personal experience, turn it into some strategy around 3 key pillars, which were basically the bike, the route, and myself. And then for the bike, what do I need? These spare parts, which bike, etc. For the route, which route is the most feasible and still qualifies for my statement of around the world. And then myself, right, what I need to do, and etc. So I had this planning, and then I detailed it. Then pandemic hit, so I could not do it. And I was just basically waiting for the most possible route, which, you know, especially if you go from Indonesia, you have just this narrow Southeast Asia strip, and then you really cannot. You can go if you want to go west. You either have to cross Myanmar, or you have to go via China. And China was the last to open there, and then they suddenly did. So. I was ready. The advantage was that during that time, there was actually a new motorcycle introduced, which has even better specifications. So I have decided to use that one. The downside was that they just launched it in January or February. I imported it to Indonesia. I'm a Slovak national. Can you imagine like how complex it was to get the bike imported, registered, to get Carnet, which is this document which allows you to take a vehicle internationally. So Indonesia, the country of 280 million people, who has the first ever Carnet for electric vehicle? No, it's me. It's a Slovak guy. So it was really, really complex. So I actually did not have any time to test the bike. I did around 500 kilometers before going in and taking it around the whole world. Plus, it was a new model, so there was a high risk. Fortunately, it is a good bike, so I didn't have any problem. So I was I tried to obviously myself get into reasonable shape before the journey, and I made sure that at least the documents which I need in advance are in place. For example, China, they will not let you ride motorcycle in China if you just think that I will just cross China on a bike. Impossible.
Okay.
So there was like the whole process. And I just remember I was at the Chinese embassy in Jakarta trying to get the visa, and it's a bunch of documents. You need a detailed itinerary where you will stay. You need to be sort of on a tour, which I was, but of course not. It was just me. But there is a bunch of documents. And then I'm with this lady, and I'm giving her all the documents, and she comes back to me, and she's like, yeah, but you forgot one important document. And what is it? Your flight ticket to China. And I'm saying, no, I'm not flying there. I'm riding their motorcycle. And then it turned into 2 days of clarification with the staff at the embassy what I'm actually going to do there, or why I'm doing this. I was so happy when I eventually got that stamp in my passport that I can do it. So there were a few things which are really needed to have in place even before departing, because there were not possible. I would not be able to get this somewhere on the way. So there was a lot of preparation. Good old, things like planning are very fundamental. Yeah, because I'm not a guy who is now, and you have many people like that, right? They just take off and they ride various places and see how it evolves. No, I had
You had
time.
schedule.
Exactly. I had the time, so I seriously to go back to work. I'm already very flexible. I appreciate it, but I have to go back. And also, I have some other activities than just. So my objective is not to achieve the highest number of countries, to achieve higher mileage. No, it's to complete that circumnavigation, do it, project done, accomplished, next.
You mentioned there are lots of benefit using the electric vehicles compared to the gasoline base, right? But is there any drawbacks or any, inferiority compared to the combustion ones?
Maybe. Okay, that's okay. Fine. That's an interesting question. I'm, of course, you can hear it from. I might be biased, so I see the good sides. On the downside, look, you still need to. Okay, so the downside is maybe that the ecosystem is still not completely ready, right? If you look at these combustion bikes, they've been around for 100 years, so everything end to end is already there, right? If you look at the servicing, especially if you look at end of life, right? What do you do with these batteries? How you recycle them? That is still sort of in progress. There are a lot of uncertainties about the market value, right? How much you can sell this bike after 2-3 years for. So there is sort of, but it is not really the downside of the technology, it's just the downside of the whole experience of people. But honestly, I don't, because also the tech is still evolving, right? So initially, when they started to make electric motorcycles in Taiwan 12 years ago, they had these swap batteries and systems because the capacity of batteries was not enough for a daily need, right? Which now for majority of use cases is already there. You don't need swaps, you just have a battery, you charge it. I was in Jakarta using motorcycle with 100 kilometers range. Well, I tried to do 100 kilometers in Jakarta in a day, right? So I needed to charge it every 2-3 days. During the night, right? You go sleep like your phone, you just plug it in. That's it. So the battery's capacity is improving, so that will solve some issues about still range for some use cases, because there are obviously use cases which are extreme, which is all the fleets of the delivery fleets and all of that. So they might need a higher capacity, but there is a question of time only.
Yeah. Time will answer it.
Yeah. So honestly, the electrification of transport, there is not much downside, and obviously, then you can also get value from the transformation of the energy sources, right? So as you are transiting energy to more renewable sources, you will never do anything else with energy for combustion bike. You always need to get that oil from the ground, turn it into petrol. It's always same. The way you power the electric vehicles is that, yes, still depends on the share, right? You have countries which have already high share of renewables. I think in Europe, 24% is already good, right? So you have some, and it will be only more. So the more renewable energy is coming in, then the impact, the benefit is even higher. I saw this, for example, in Australia. It's amazing. Australia is already very mature in adoption of solar. So you had solar charging stations. You just go there is a solar roof.
And there are lots of sun in Australia.
Exactly. And it's an amazing feeling when you see those electrons, hitting that solar panel, just going directly into your battery, and and it's an ultimate proposition, end to end, really zero emission. And that is.
And you feel good about yourself afterwards.
Well, you feel good, but also you see it in real life, so it's not some sort of concept or anything. That is, again, that is also why I do distributed. This is not a concept of some electric-powered vehicle for some early adopters. No, this is already very mature tech. So which can then enable, because if you have, as I said, burning petrol, you will not enable any change in sources of that petrol. Using energy, electric energy, you enable change in how that electric energy is sourced, right? And that is increasingly more and more from resources, which then have all the impact we do. But I'm also very strict in saying it's not only about it, it's also about those components of reliability, very soon cost, the total cost of ownership is already lower than the combustion. So it's just a much better value proposition, which still some people are not aware of. And again, that is for me, my, the vehicle of this messaging is actually my journey. Right?
Yeah, so you were raising awareness about that actually, But some people might be concerned about the implication of the electric vehicles for the automotive industry and the job market, probably. Okay, do you have something to say about that?
Well, it's with every new technology, we could do the same talk about AI, etc., where obviously there is a new technology is displacing some of the jobs. On the other hand, the common answer to that is also creating new ones, which were not there before, right? So, fully agree. If you have just the whole drivetrain and everything, it's just easier tech. You don't need the complexity of production, and it comes back also to the people. So, well, they can be doing something else. And this is very interesting because we don't see yet the innovation this electrification is enabling. It's just one component of changing the transportation, right? Because once you electrify the transport, it's not just that you have replaced the drivetrain. No, you have enabled much more different innovation we also don't know about yet, right? Because if you have a simpler vehicle, everything is sort of digital there. Well, what do you do with this, right? And you could start thinking already about some interesting ways, right? Because you have simplified, which then obviously means you can more automate, and once you more automate, maybe so.
Yeah, there are lots of opportunities.
Yeah, definitely.
So never be afraid of new things, right? Because
it's same everywhere. Look, I always use this example when sometimes people have this argument that. But the problem is that they are too quiet, these electric motorcycles. They cannot hear you.
Oh my God.
And I tell them, what was the problem where cars came to use? The people were saying they're too loud, and horses are scared of them, right?
God.
So it's just the reference point. What is your reference point? Yeah, I mean, if you need to be heard to be safe on a road, you have a problem. So that is definitely not an issue, and it's an advantage, as I said before.
Yeah, just probably people just need time to adapt sometimes. Yeah.
That's normal.
Okay. Do you find any differences, like within the Indonesia itself? Like, is it different from Jakarta to maybe a more rural area in terms of the facilities, how you charge it, or how you manage your
well, so I was riding electric bikes in Indonesia before 5 years, right? So I'm used to this concept of going somewhere and like, where is the plug and stuff, And I was like, for example, I don't come somewhere and saying, do you have somewhere electric socket? Because people, They see the bike, no, we cannot charge bikes here, etc. No, I go somewhere, find the socket, and then I ask, can I use this? And they're always fine. You can. I was actually surprised because I was in a Larantuka, which is the most eastern city in Flores.
Which I never been there.
Yeah, exactly. It's lovely. They have amazing beaches and people are just awesome. But it's a small city. They don't even have like Indo Alfamart. It's just a small city.
Really?
They have gym, very good one.
Okay.
And suddenly there's a coffee shop and there is a guy who is trying to sell electric scooters in that coffee shop. And he's a very progressive person, bringing the electric mobility there. And you can imagine how an outlier he's in that environment, but he's doing it. So what I would say that what is actually homogeneous in Indonesia, that you can find these progressive people who are keen to try new things. And I think that is one of the main reasons why Indonesia is also transforming so fast. And that is the reason why I'm here. I think it's an amazing country with people who are distributed across the nation, who just want to make new things and are not afraid to try, and it's just absolutely amazing. So that is something. Okay, your question was about differences. I said something what is common. Obviously, the differences would be if you are really in some very remote place, the power grid, but it's only for my bike. My bike is big because, of course, I need to go around the whole road. So my battery is big, so I need a little bit power. I need at least 1 kilowatt, right? You might find some places, like if you go to small Warung, somewhere in Timor, they might not have 1 kilowatt there, but that is for my bike. The normal scooter, electric scooter, it needs much less, so for them it is also okay. So I think the grid and capacity is enough, and again the difference would be just that I think sometimes people are more interested in me being a bullet than being on an electric bike, right?
Before they saw that it's an electric bike, they said, "Oh, Wula is coming."
It's funny. I mean, if people want to take a picture with me, I say, I don't take picture with you without my bike.
Okay.
It's about this bike.
Not with a, do you have a name for your bike?
No, I don't do this. I don't do this.
You're not that type of person, right?
No,
Okay.
it's a tool. It's a tool for me to achieve the objective. We don't have any personal relationship, though. It's actually interesting. That is probably happened to me as well. Actually, I like my bike.
You've grown to like your bike.
I mean, I went with that bike through some, tough times, and it never let me down. Yeah? And you have these moments where I'm in the middle of Australian summer, in the middle of outback. You have 270 kilometers without any signal, of course, no civilization, and you are in the middle of it. You really need to have the trust that,
The bike will take you
exactly,
there.
which I already had after the journey. I had similar in Kazakhstan, also empty steppes, and you are on your own, and then it did it. So, but it's acquired, right? It's acquired trust. Of course, I had some hesitation, right? You get a new bike, new model. So when I was pushing through this rain, I hit the rainy season in Southeast Asia and South China. I was constantly in the mud. Laos was a surprise. The roads were unbelievably bad. Even I tried to take them. I'm not like off-roading too much, but in Laos it was an ultimate test as well. I was always in the mud, in the rain, and the bike was okay. I was even crossing some bodies of water, let's say 0.5 meter or something, and it was okay.
You can pull through. Wow, that's great. Is there any? You mentioned a lot about Kazakhstan and also Australia. I think those countries might have,
Because they are really ultimate evidence of what I'm trying to do. Because those countries are really sparsely populated. They have huge stretches of roads without, as I said, no power, no people, no phone signal, right? So you're really there and you just go. So I was just going through this, and Kazakhstan was the first one on my journey after China. And it's a tough place. Yeah, you have in summer in steppe you have plus 40 degrees centigrades. In winter you have minus 40 centigrades. People are really, really tough people in those conditions. Really, really kind. One of the most amazing people I met on my journey. And you go through, and obviously no one I was in Almaty, which is on the east, and I was going west, and I met some bikers, and they were, "You are insane. You cannot go there on an electric bike. There is nothing." Well, I already did some research. Also, it's not, we are used to, you always, if you want to go somewhere, you check your phone, there is a map, and you can find things there. Not in Kazakhstan. It's like you cannot find like, okay, there is some restaurant or something where I can charge. No, I was really studying satellite images and looking there. Is there really, this looks like there is absolutely nothing, this 400 kilometers, and 400 is beyond my range. I need to find something in between. There must be. And then I found like a spot which looked like some petrol station.
Okay.
And then I was like, okay, petrol station, so they will probably have electricity, right? And I go there, and you never know. You never know what it will be there in real life. And I go there, and I'm already getting to that point. I saw it on my distance. And typically when you are like already 5-6 kilometers, you should start seeing power lines, yeah? And there are no power lines. And of course, and in those places, they never dig them because it's expensive. There are no power lines. Oh my God, what if it's not there? I really will be stuck for the first time. And I'm going, I don't see any power lines. I'm already like 2 kilometers from there. And then suddenly I see on my phone, phone signal.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, okay, if they have a signal, it means there is a tower, there is some electricity. And it was. So it was probably the only time where I was a little bit like, wow, I have a risk. On my entire journey, I never ran out of power, never basically had to, push my bike or anything. No, I always managed to find some power source when I needed
You
it.
don't have to bring like spare batteries or something?
You cannot, because they would be big. I know it's no, it's you don't need spare batteries. You need just planning. I already know what are my ranges. I had done an analysis at the like country level and then even weekly level, at least to know that there is something. Exactly, I could not end up with a stretch of road where there is nothing for 400 kilometers, and realize only when I come there after driving 3,000 kilometers through that country. So I did this, and then I did every morning also or every evening detailed planning of at least the wind, because wind is a factor. And
It influences the
it does.
range.
If you get a strong headwind, which I got, especially in Gobi Desert in Central Asia, and it can take easily 20-30% of your range. If you get a strong headwind, 60 kilometer per hour, yeah, you are in trouble. So I always studied wind. Obviously, the topology, that if you go up the hill, you consume more. You will get it back when you go down through some regeneration. But if your end destination is up the hill, you need to make sure that you will make it there, right? So that was the other one. Obviously, the weather. So I had to, when I was in winter in the U.S., really forecast and snow. I was in some mountains. Also, this forecast is super inaccurate. Yeah, I mean these things. I even gave up at some point. I was waiting really for a day, and which is painful for me to wait because I want to every day proceed. But one day I was waiting for the forecast was that it is snowing there, but the next day is not over some overpass, some mountain range. Well, of course I go there. Wow, in a snowstorm for the first time in my life. I live in Indonesia, right? So I was riding in a snowstorm over some pass and yeah, did it.
Is there any must-have items that you have along the ride?
Well, yes, and some of that I should, I didn't know better. I'm no touring guy, I just ride bike. I actually went first, my POC, proof of concept, was riding bike, my previous one with much smaller range from Jakarta to Bali. It was the first time electric bike crossed the Java Island. So I had little learning, but still. So definitely the must items are, so some are fundamental, yeah, and like a cable, right? I need cable to plug in, right? And these things. I was carrying with me spare parts, the belt. So my bike doesn't have chain, has a belt. if it snaps. It did not. It can happen that you get a stone inside it, but with this one, they really did a good job. It's like carbon reinforced. So I just in case, I never really needed it. The really thing which I did not have, and it's a must-have, is a proper rain gear. I just got some raincoat, which is ridiculous on a highway in China. I was in this raincoat; it's useless. So then in Europe, I got proper rain gear, and it was a game changer. The good thing is that at least here in Asia, you just get wet, right? And you just go with it, and you are wet for hours, but at least it's not cold. If this happens in cold environment, you cannot do it. So I think the good rain gear, 100% for your shoes as well. That is, I think, a must-have. And on the other hand, there is not that much required, right? I don't have that many things.
And I think that you mentioned that you started from Jakarta to Bali. I think people can start, shorter distance.
Well, exactly. No, I'm telling you, don't do this. It's
Actually raising awareness not to do this.
not to go around the world on electric, but it's an extreme. It took me a lot of time. Well, guys, it was not cheap. It's really, I do it because it's an extreme use case to show all the other use cases are less than this and they are possible. But yeah, maybe going around Java, it's completely fine.
Do you think in Indonesia, the government, do you have any suggestion for the government to have more people using the?
Well, I think government is actually doing a lot. Honestly, I think just signaling to the market. Yeah, they are, and those signals are also for businesses and investment. They have signaled that we see this as future for this country. We are serious about it. You have seen the commitment. I think they are already doing a lot. As I said,
They have less tax for the
look, you can always create some incentives. Those incentives, as the technology is maturing more and more, will be less and less required. There are some subsidies and all of that. That is fine. It's also certain complexity to deploy those incentives. Yeah, so it's not easy. I think it's more about that, again, the whole transition, and it goes into energy transition, right? And the whole natural resources of Indonesia and the unique characteristics which can be used to strengthen the position of Indonesia in the production of energy storage and all of that. I think that is already really, really good. That is giving that confidence to the businesses. As I said, the throttle is there, it's the government. The businesses, the switch, you see some companies diversifying. You see companies which were traditionally in energy space, and I think mineral energy space, and they are diversifying into e-mobility, etc., because they see that, well, hey, this is probably something we should not miss, especially long term. It is happening there as well. So as I said, just turning that key. It will take time. People obviously are hesitant. There is this, convergence to status quo, and people think, this is still good enough, etc. You see it in some of the traditional companies. If you look at the manufacturers of electric vehicles, who are they? They're not traditional brands, at least not the first one, right? In cars, and the same in bikes. Like, which brands of bikes you see on the roads? None of them is the traditional manufacturers of vehicles. So they're a little bit, and naturally, right? So the sort of continuation is there, but that is just a question of time. That's why also there is not that confidence. It's different if you were to buy a bike from the major brand you already know and you even had before, than what is this from, right? So that's why the adoption is slower. But I can tell you, as I saw it in China, very, very practically, you electrify all of it, it's just awesome.
Yeah. So in terms of cultural differences, right? You've been to around the world. So is there any differences from Indonesia compared to other part of the world in terms of adopting this electronic vehicles?
Yes. There were some surprises.
Was it good one? Good surprise?
Well, okay. Two examples. So you already know Europe. Europe is very progressive, charging infrastructure. So there I could even charge from charging stations. I was covering every day 600 kilometers easily because I could charge in the middle of the day full charge. So that is sort of, that is in place. The surprise was US, because everybody thinks that is where the e-mobility comes from,
Yes.
because of Tesla.
We would assume.
Super terrible legacy. Charging infrastructure, very poor. The user experience for the apps they are using, nothing comparing to what you see in the rest of the world. Really, it happened to me very often that there was a charging station on the map, the only one, very sparse. Yeah, I thought that I can charge there always from charging station. No, I was charging from McDonald's or plug normal power socket there. And when there it was, you see it in the app and you come there just to realize that it's some military facility and the charging station is inside. And in one, because I learned to be a little bit pushier with this because I need to charge.
So can the Slovakian guys get into this?
Exactly. So, if some people are hesitant, I'm still trying to convince them. So there were these guys, at this military facility, and I tried to buy the guys. Look, I just need to go there and charge, and they became suspicious, and they detained me. Why is this guy really trying to get in? They checked all my documents and everything, and then realized, I was just really trying to charge because. Then it meant I had to stay there overnight in that city and I lose a day. So anyway, US was really an electric motorcycle non-existent. Cars also no. So that was a surprise. I was expecting the other extreme. Also the sort of standards they are using are a little bit older. So for example, these charging systems, they're using the older one, which had some issues for me. There's only one phase, so it was slower. Anyway, so US was a little bit surprised. On the other hand, Australia was the other example of much more than what I expected. There was a lot of interest. My project. I was on the national TV news and all of that. They really were interested. They had, as I said, already practical use of solar energy for charging. I come to a guy in Alice Springs, and he's charging his Tesla from the solar panel, running his whole shop from the solar panel, and even his home next to it. So, and also the community there and the interest, I felt that it is really a topic. Given also, again, unique characteristic of Australia, as you said, right? A lot of sun, but also that's a country which is coming from the mineral, economy. So. That was super progressive.
Okay, that's very interesting. So, if you have to rate all of those countries, what would
I will not do that.
No. I mean, the hardest in terms of maybe the physical obstacles that you've been going through. What is the hardest?
Well, hands down Kazakhstan, because I was. So also my bike, it does not have any support anywhere in Asia or stuff. So if my bike breaks, something major, there is less components, but if something breaks, I don't know, there's something with the battery, some fundamental problem, I'm done. There's no, I go to a ride, so,
You have to go home with the plane.
I would, exactly, I'm done. So I had a bit of an I had a lot of anxiety about this. Every time I turn it on, really turn it on, okay, good. So, and if it happens in Kazakhstan, then I'm really done. Because there, I rode a little bit, east is a little bit populated, but then you go through that really steppe, and it's not even at least desert is pretty, or this is just a steppe, it's just a gray, flat surface, and you go through that for 2 weeks.
I would imagine that would be kind of heaven for an introvert person sometimes.
Well, no, I'm not that introvert, but no, you are alone. There is also
That's quite
every 200. If I wanted to sleep somewhere, it would be just typically some place for truck drivers somewhere
How
there.
do you manage to stay safe across your journey?
Well, look, I didn't have any problem. But I travel a lot. I'm living in many different countries, so I think it's a combination of me already sort of being sensitive to some situations which I need to manage. Well, I had some situation, people come and they want some money from you, not like robbing you, but they see a foreigner, they think. and you learn how to manage it. So I'm already used to that. So I never, and very rare, yeah. So I never had a problem with that. So I never had any problem.
What about the language barriers? I would imagine like
Yeah,
some areas.
that is a big observation I had, because in my life I typically would travel to cities, right? So even if you go to countries, you go to big cities and people speak some English. Eh? You go to Shanghai, people have. You go to Bangkok, people speak. You know, my observation is people don't speak English. They don't. I was really crossing these countries, and if you go outside big cities, zero. I thought that Thailand people speak English. No, only in Bangkok and maybe in Phuket. If you go in Thailand somewhere, they don't speak English. China, of course, nothing outside the city. So, and other places, of course, also not. So.
Do you use app or like body language?
No, you cannot, because also the coverage, you cannot really count on coverage. You don't always get it, especially if you are in some remote place. Well, I travel a lot again in my life anyway, so I'm sort of used to communicate without language. I have some language skills which I brushed off poorly. But yeah, for example, when I was in Kazakhstan, my friends, they gave me some paper with something written, which says, "Hey, I'm riding this bike. Do you have some?" I never used
Very
it.
traditional, but it works.
Yeah, no, but never used it. I never used it.
Oh, you never used
I never
it?
used it because, again, it's just I come somewhere, with everybody looking at you, and what I'm doing, I'm looking for a power socket. Then I find it, and then I, in some way, like, look, is it okay? This.
Universal language.
Exactly.
Okay. So, what are your prediction for the trends for the future of the e-mobility in the future?
So I think, as I said before, there is this phase of, okay, let's transform and electrify the mobility. But I think there is a much more exciting phase coming after that, or in parallel, which is how is this enabling this innovation, which I talked about. Yeah, how can we automate certain things, and how can we improve? You already see it in cars a little bit, right? The tech is sort of more and more tech there, but it's still pretty much, if you look at the form factor and everything, is still the same. I think this will change. In two-wheelers, again, I don't want to throw things because I would be very far-fetched and obviously wrong. But what I have seen is, look at, I don't know, once you've digitized financial services, what has happened? Imagine you digitize completely, and electrification is a main tool for digitization. So you digitize transportation service, and I'm talking about service, right? So you digitize not scooter or you digitize the service of transformation, and so it's really that innovation which will come, super exciting. So that's what I see is coming.
So lots of opportunities there.
Yeah.
So would you do it again?
No, not at all. Absolutely not. I haven't. Look, I'm already here, so I'm chilled. I'm sort of happy and all of it. As I said, it's a hard work. It's a hard work because, especially if you do it solo, you have this huge uncertainty where, I don't know, you go and suddenly, this Azerbaijan, they have closed the land borders, and I'm just sweating at night at 12 somewhere when I realize this, and then how do I cross it? And you need to, the problem solving is constantly there. You never know what happens on a journey, what type of thing you encounter. The borders crossing, I had always headache from that because you never knew. Look, I crossed from China to Kazakhstan. There's this huge border on the China side with, I don't know, 10 lanes, and then there is this huge passenger also crossing. I'm the only guy there with the vehicle. I don't know what happened. There was no car, no bus, only people crossing, and buses dropped them, and on the other side they picked it. There was no, and I'm there with this bike, and then like, how do I cross this thing, right? And people obviously they are complex, so it took me, hours and hours. So crossing was difficult. As I said, this weather, when I was in the US, I was delayed because of these custom procedures. I was riding in snow. I had same gloves I'm using here. My
Okay.
fingers,
Oh my
I had
God.
cracks up down to my bone in my skin. I couldn't wash my hands or anything for 2 weeks. So it was tough. So I would not, I would probably not do that. What I would do is more enjoy riding in some, as I do a little bit now. So now I have a little
You
bit
do it
of.
in solo or travel, or in the group?
Well, I did this solo because I really wanted to show that there is no need for a
Okay.
support. That is definitely much more fun if you do it with someone and you enjoy it, etc. I needed the flexibility, right? So sometimes I could cover more, sometimes less. So it was, I think, better to do it myself. But yeah, I mean, I like people. I'm not like.
Got it. So for the leisure thing, it's okay. You can bring your
Exactly.
friends.
I actually did it in, as I said, Australia, super progressive, they're super nice guys. So I'm not really big on social media, but I use it for my purpose. So some people
Yes.
reach out. So even before I was in Australia, they already organized some barbecue, and I actually did a ride there with some guys on electric bikes, which is absolutely fun. We went from Sydney through to the south, so it is fun. It's
Yes.
great, but it's a different use case, right? It's a use case of having fun,
Yes.
which is not mine.
And talking about fun, it's very fun to have you here in our Markas Surabaya. We've learned a lot from you and your experience. We are exciting to adapt this new vehicle like more in our daily use. Yeah, it'll be exciting. We hope that and more digitalization to support this environment so we can adapt it in our daily lives. What would you say to our pink people about your experience or about adapting this e-mobility?
Well, I would expand it to the concept of curiosity. I think, and again, I see it in Indonesia, so it's great. I think just if there is one message, be curious, right?
Be curious.
Don't, and about e-mobility as well. I'm not telling you now you have to buy now electric motorcycle or no. Just be curious about it, trying to understand it, get some information, try it. You know,
Try.
myself, I never had a motorcycle. I always ride cars. I lived in countries where there was a good public transport, like London, etc., UK, or I live in countries where you had a big car, like in UAE, etc. So my first motorcycle was electric, and I was using it. And then I had to do the driving license. So, and obviously you do a driving license on a combustion. And I was like, what is this? You do this? It's really so inferior. So I think the best way, just hop on some bike where you can. There are some opportunities. Try it. I'm completely fine. I hang out with two crowds, with electric crowd on my journey, which I meet at the charging station, and we chat. But also hang out with bikers crowd. And I was with these Harley big guys,
Yeah, biker
and
guys.
again we're friendly and we talk because I also understand it's so awesome to ride a bike. I never did it in my life. Now I just love it. I'm a biker
Yes.
and I'm an electric biker. So what I'm saying is it's great if you like your loud big bike, enjoy it. It's great that you have something you enjoy. Also, if you are interested to know a little bit more about electric, check it out.
Yeah.
Make your decision. We are different. My experience, personal only, not imposing on anyone. I think it's much better way to move around.
Okay, so be curious, be open to new
Exactly.
opportunity, new experience, and I'm sure a lot of the e-motors producers are open to people who want to test drive the motorcycles.
Of
So,
course, of
be
course.
curious, learn more, about the.
Like in life everywhere, right?
Yes, that's very a lesson in life and a lesson in this e-mobility. Okay, thank you very much once again, Roman. We wish you good luck, and I hope you have a speedy recovery for your
Thank you.
leg.
Thank you. I'm off to Ikain in Kalimantan. Also
Sounds
interesting,
exciting.
curious about it. I'm curious also about things. So thank you very much. This was very enjoyable. Again, I'm just surprised that I can talk so much and for so long. But I appreciate. Thank
Very
you
nice
for having
having
me.
you. Baiklah, Pink People, terima kasih sudah menyimak dan mendengarkan Pink Podcast hari ini. Jangan lupa untuk follow, subscribe, dan klik lonceng untuk menyalakan notifikasi supaya bisa update dengan kami ke depannya. Jangan lupa boleh tuh di komen apalagi topik-topik yang pingin Pink People dengarkan dari Pink Podcast. Sampai jumpa lagi.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye-bye. Wow.